What you are about to hear is not a story from 100 years ago. It is happening right now in neighborhoods across Tennessee, and the animal at the center of it is one you already know, or thought you did. On a spring morning in 2024, a homeowner in the hills above Gatlinburg walked out to her garage and found a black bear standing on her back deck. It was not the first bear she had ever seen. It was not even the first bear she had seen that month. It stood there in the pale light with the calm posture of an animal that had done this before, that had learned the shape of the house and the sound of the door, and had come back because the last time it came, it had been fed. She backed inside. The bear did not run. By the end of that same year, the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency would take in 1,700 emergency calls about black bears in the state, roughly one call every 5 hours for a full year. And more than a quarter of them, the biologists would later say, came down to one thing: garbage. That is where the story starts, not in the deep forest, in the driveway. To understand why the black bear has come back into Tennessee's neighborhoods, you have to start with how completely it was pushed out of them. 2 centuries ago, black bears ranged across the whole of the state, from the mountains in the east to the bottomlands in the west, through country that has not been forest for a very long time. Then came the settlers, and the axes, and the guns. Bears were shot as pests and hunted for meat and hide, and the forests they lived in were cut and cleared and cut again. By the middle of the 20th century, the state's biologists would look at what was left and count almost nothing. In the 1960s, by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency's own historical accounting, the state's entire black bear population had been squeezed into just 11 mountain counties in the Far East, a thin remnant clinging to the highest ridges of the Appalachians, where the country was too steep and too rough for anyone to bother clearing. Everything else, the whole broad middle of the state, the plateau country, the western bottomlands, was empty of them. A bear in Nashville would have been a headline. A bear in Memphis would have been a hoax. That is the baseline. That is the country that is now, quietly, unmistakably, reversing. Today, the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency estimates there are nearly 6,000 black bears in the state. Roughly 1,900 of them live within the boundaries of Great Smoky Mountains National Park alone, one of the densest populations of black bears anywhere in the country, about 2 bears for every square mile of forest. And they are no longer staying inside the lines the state once drew around them. Because a black bear was seen last year in suburban Nashville, more than 200 miles from the mountain counties the state considered their home range. Transient bears have now been documented as far west as Memphis. Wildlife officers on the Cumberland Plateau, on Signal Mountain, in Hamilton County, in Collegedale, in Ooltewah, in Appleton, are logging complaints in country that a generation ago would have been considered bear-free. Bears are being seen in West Tennessee. In East Tennessee, in and around Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge and the ring of small mountain towns tucked against the park, the sightings are no longer even news. The state's own biologists have a phrase for what is happening. They call it recolonization. Here is what that means in the plain language the agency's coordinator, Dan Gibbs, has used with local reporters. The bears are not only Tennessee's bears. Some of them are the leading edge of populations moving in from the outside. Bears from Kentucky and Arkansas and the growing populations along the Mississippi are spreading without invitation and without any human hand steering them back into a landscape their ancestors once used and were driven out of. The animal is reclaiming its old range. And then there is the piece almost no one thinks about: modern technology. Every home is now a camera. Every doorbell watches the porch. Every trail camera set for deer catches, sooner or later, something it was not set to catch. A bear that would once have crossed a backyard in the middle of the night and left nothing behind but a knocked-over trash can now leaves behind a video clip, time-stamped, shareable, and impossible to argue away. The agency's own black bear support biologist, Janelle Musser, has said it plainly. There are more bears than there used to be, and they are more visible than ever. So, the sightings climb, and climbing with them from the same door is something quieter. A black bear does not go looking for people. It goes looking for calories, and it has a nose built to find them at distances that would seem impossible to a human being. A bear can smell food from more than a mile away, and once it has smelled a reward, it will come back. Not once, not twice, it will lay down a habit. A biologist will tell you that a bear that has been fed, even accidentally, even by a neighbor 2 doors down who leaves the dog food on the porch, is a bear that has crossed a line. It cannot easily be walked back over. It has learned that people mean food. It has stopped being afraid. That is the transformation the state is watching. Not a wild animal wandering out of the woods for a moment and vanishing back into them. An animal that is deciding, one interaction at a time, that neighborhoods are worth returning to. In a 19-square-mile stretch of research territory in East Tennessee, the agency's biologists once mapped the movements of 37 individual bears, all crossing the same country, some of them almost certainly crossing the same porches. Removing a problem bear, they have said openly, almost never solves the problem. Another bear moves into the same space. The math is not with the homeowner. The math is with the animal. And the state has now written that math into its laws. Feeding a black bear inside the Gatlinburg city limits was already illegal under a Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency proclamation. As of July of 2025, the Tennessee General Assembly went further, making it a criminal misdemeanor to knowingly feed a bear in any area posted against it, carrying fines starting at $250 for a first offense. Inside Great Smoky Mountains National Park, the penalty for feeding wildlife can climb to $5,000 and 6 months in jail. These are not the laws of a state where a bear is a rare event. These are the laws of a state that has decided the encounter is now routine. The oddest part of the story is that Tennesseans, in the main, want this. In a survey the agency commissioned back in 2012, 87% of Tennesseans said they supported bears living in Tennessee. Nearly 3/4 said they supported the idea of bears in their own county. That number holds until the bear is standing on the deck. Then it changes, which brings the whole thing back to the driveway and the trash can, and the woman in Gatlinburg watching the animal on her porch through her kitchen window. Because the mystery here is not how the black bear came back into Tennessee. The mystery, the one the biologists and the game wardens and the small-town mayors are all quietly wrestling with, is how far into Tennessee it will go, and how long it will take the people living there to notice. A single bear on a lawn is a curiosity. 6,000 of them, spreading west into country that has not held a bear population in 100 years, quietly logging themselves onto doorbell cameras from Signal Mountain to the outskirts of Nashville and beyond, is something else. It is a return that no one in charge planned. No one released these animals. No one guided them. They walked out of the 11 counties the state had shrunk them into, and they have not stopped walking.